So let's go ahead though and get this meeting started. City Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Alderman Wilson.
Here.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Here.
I'm sorry, am I able to be heard?
I can hear you, Clerk.
Here?
I'm not
Did you
hearing,
hear me?
I'm not hearing the others. I think it's because they're in the council, that may be because they're in the council chambers.
Did you hear me
And
originally?
there's some kind of
Can you hear
echo
me?
situation, but
Or no,
I
you can't
do
hear
see
me.
Alderman Ruth Simmons and Alderman Wilson.
But you can't hear us.
There we go. We can hear you
You can
there,
hear?
Dawn.
Can you hear us all?
We do.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Clerk.
Alderman Sufferton.
Here.
Alderman Ravel.
Here.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Fleming.
Here.
Alderman Fisk.
Alderman Fisk
Alderman
is connecting
Braithwaite.
her equipment. She's here. She's just getting her stuff connected.
Alderman Braithwaite.
All right, thank you.
I want to say we have a
Well,
quorum.
Mr. Mayor, I'm here. I wasn't called on.
I called you first.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Clerk Reed. Welcome, everyone, to the Monday, April 26, 2021 Evanston City Council meeting. We have a quorum here. I do expect Alderman Braithwaite and Alderman Judy Fisk to be joining us shortly. As always, in this time of a pandemic, I'm going to ask if there's a motion to suspend the rules to allow for remote participation. Alderman Wilson, could you move that motion?
Yes, I move that we suspend the rules to allow us to conduct the meeting utilizing the Zoom software in lieu of an in-person meeting in accordance with the governor's prior directives related to the pandemic.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Wynn.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye. Here.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Alderman Fisk or Braithwaite with us yet?
I don't see them, Clerk. All right. So thank you, Clerk. On a 7-0 vote with Alderman Fisk and Alderman Braithwaite absent from the vote, the City Council has moved the motion to allow for remote participation. We do have something that is slightly different than what we've been doing in the recent months because of the pandemic, and that is we do have a few of our council members in the chamber tonight, and that's because this is their last meeting. Well, we have a meeting next week, but next week sort of the handover to the 81st Evanston City Council. So this evening's the last meeting, and they wanted to be in the council chambers, and so that's all. Alderman Ruth Simmons is there, and is anyone else? Alderman Wilson is there, even though it looks like he's by the lighthouse, if you're watching, but he is in the chambers. And is there anyone else in the chambers with you too? I thought there was going to be.
Alderman Rainey and Alderman Fisk, and I believe Alderman Braithwaite are there.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Alderman Nguyen. So all of our aldermen are there. And so bear with us tonight if we have a couple hiccups because we're trying to do this virtual as we've been doing, but we do have some in the council chambers. So couple announcements as we begin this meeting. And again, if you're joining right now, this is the second to last meeting of the 80th Evanston City Council. Our next meeting will be Monday, May 10th. And at that meeting, we'll start the council meeting a little early. We will finish the business that we have say goodbye to the 80th Evanston City Council, and then there will be the swearing in of the new City Council, the 81st, and the new mayor will happen later that evening. So that will be on May 10th. This evening, I've got several announcements. The first one, though, that I want to go to is something that is wonderful and happens every single year because of a commitment to our young people in this community from an organization that rose up many years ago because of violence here in our community, and that is the organization of Evanston Own It. And once a year, they come and they make a presentation to the City Council. And this evening is that evening for this year in 2021. So I believe we have Pastor Wilson with us, who is the chair of Evanston Own It. And so, Pastor, if you're here, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
No, you don't have Pastor Wilson. You have Pastor Webb.
Oh, I got Zolly Webb with us. Excuse me, Zolly. All right. So we've got Pastor Zolly Webb with us. So Zolly, I'm going to turn it over to you. Can we get his camera on so folks can see the pastor? I saw him earlier, and I see some other members of Evanston Own It have joined us.
Hi, Dolores.
There we go. I think there we go. All right. Welcome. You've got the floor, Pastor.
Thank you, Mayor Haggerty. First, allow me to say Pastor Wilson is in another meeting. And so if he could sneak away, he said he would chime in. But for the time being, you stuck with me. The member churches of Evanston Own It we've returned to make good on our promise to help support the youth of our community. As you know, we have contributed a total of $41,000 toward this effort of support. Of that $41,000, $39,000 went to the mayor's summer youth program, and $2,000 went to the officers and a gentleman program. These funds were made possible with the support of our community partners, such as the Interdenominational Mission Union of the North Shore, Northwestern University, Robinson Reynolds, and Dr. Jessica A. Wilson. There's a hymn that our organization is somewhat governed by. It was written by the late Mr. Thomas Dorsey. The lyrics are simple but impactful. Have I given anything today? Have I helped some needy soul on the way? From the dawn till setting sun, have I wounded anyone? Shall I weep for what I've done today? This hymn causes us to inventory our mission and our purpose. We are constantly making sure that we stay focused and that we serve this present age with dignity and integrity. That's the reason we return to you and add in a tangible way our support to our community's youth. This year, in a pandemic, we're adding another $9,000 to that level of support. That brings our total to $50,000. We want $8,000 to go to the special fund for at-risk youth in the Community Service Division, and $1,000 to the Officers and Gentlemen Program sponsored by our Evanston Police Department. It is our sincere desire that this seed money will help grow resources that will aid in the city's challenge of nurturing and developing our community's young people. We also pray that each of you stay safe and healthy as you continue in your work. May God bless all of you is our sincere desire. The following is a list of the pastors and the churches that make up Evanston Own It. And they are Pastor Wilson, who pastors the Mount Pisgah Ministry, Pastor Oglesby, who pastors the Sherman United Methodist Church, Pastor Ford, who pastors Global Ministries, Pastor Adair, who pastors New Beginnings Church, Pastor Roberts, who pastors the St. Peter's Fire Baptized Church, Pastor Bentley, the Mount Zion Apostolic Church, Pastor Scott, the Ebenezer AME Church, Pastor Williams, the Springfield Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Crutcher, pastors the New Hope CME Church, Pastor Cherry, who pastors the Christ Temple Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Dillard, who pastors the First Church of God Christian Life Center, Pastor Henderson, who pastors Bethel AME Church, Pastor Skurlock, who pastors the Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Webb, the Friendship Baptist Church of Evanston, Pastor Moody, the Faith Temple Church of God in Christ. And our major supporters on that organization is Sister Halliburton, Brother Roebuck, and of course, Alderman Holmes. It's our hope, Pat, I call you Pastor Haggerty. It's our hope, Mayor Haggerty, that, and along with Pastor Wilson, that our prayers will stay with you, and that as you go on to your future endeavors, that God will continue to bless you and the council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Webb. And I am going to be needing a new job come May 11th. So I don't know if pastoring, but thank you so much. What's amazing about Evanston Own It is it's every single year you have been consistent and persistent in your efforts to help our young people here in Evanston. It's so appreciated by everybody on this city council. So thank you for that. Two other announcements. This is Earth Month, so to speak, that we've just gone through. I know many of our aldermen have been busy at different events. Our mayor-elect has. I have been, and I do want to issue a proclamation today recognizing Arbor Day 2021. And so the key points here, I'm not going to read the entire proclamation that I have issued, but let's just remember Arbor Day is about and was created long ago to plant more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and it's now recognized throughout the entire world. It is celebrated on the last Friday of April, so Arbor Day will be this Friday, April 30th. Evanston has been a Tree City, USA since 1985 and has only increased its commitment to trees and other green infrastructure. And so it is my honor as the mayor of Evanston to proclaim this Friday, April 30th, as Arbor Day here in the city of Evanston. And I urge all residents and citizens to support our efforts to protect our trees and our woodlands and to protect our city's urban forestry program, to participate in activities in the week following Arbor Day, which will be the first week in May, and plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. We are going to continue our commitment to be a Tree City here at Tree City, USA. So thank you to our forestry department and all that they do to protect our trees, and to the council and all of the work that this council does as well to treat our trees, and to all of those residents and activists in our community who are working hard to protect our environment. Second proclamation I want to issue this evening is the Evanston Public Service Recognition Week. Every week we recognize those who are in public service, whether it's our school teachers, whether it's our public works, our firefighters, our police officers. The list is long, and I think since we issued this proclamation a year ago, there are less people scratching their head when they say, what has government done for me today? You can't help but think about our public health department here in Evanston, who really has done a remarkable job, and they have been working 24/7 to help us manage and contain this pandemic. And I think a lot of people are feeling more optimistic as more and more people are vaccinated that we're coming out of that. So a big thank you and recognition from all of us here at the Evanston City Council to all of those public sector employees that are supporting our city and supporting our schools to maintain sort of the high quality city that we live in. So if you see somebody out there, thank them for the job that they are doing. It is my pleasure to issue this proclamation and do hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 8th. So this will be the first week in May as Evanston Public Service Recognition Week. And I commend all of our city employees for delivering exceptional public service. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of public employees in providing a responsive and effective government. So thank you, one and all, including all those public employees that are on this meeting supporting us today. Next, I want to note that this evening on our agenda is recommendations before the council for the reparations committee. As we all know, Evanston is one of the first cities in the country to embark on a local reparations initiative. And we and Alderman Ruth Simmons, who's been a leader in this, have received calls from people all over the country. There is a lot of work to be done. It is hard work. It's complex work. And I just want to thank over 30 people who applied to be on the reparations committee. And we only had 4 community positions on that. And so later this evening, we will probably, I believe, pull that off the consent agenda because Alderman Robin Ruth Simmons, who will become Citizen Robin Ruth Simmons come May 11th, is one of the folks that I'm putting forward to be on that reparations committee. I'd also like to acknowledge Alderman Braithwaite, who will be part of the reparations committee as a council member, who I've asked to chair the reparations committee moving forward. So that's that. And then lastly, I just want to give everyone a quick update on vaccinations here in Evanston. Evanstonians, continue to be resourceful people. And while we've struggled for a bit to have what we thought was a more proper allocation directly to our health department, I am pleased tonight to report that, and you're going to scratch your head when I give this number, that 103% of our residents 65 and older have received at least 1 shot. And so you're scratching your head saying that makes no sense to me. How can you possibly have more than 100%? But the 100%, the denominator in that is the census figure for how many people we have in Evanston that are over the age of 65. So clearly we've had more people get vaccinated over the age of 65 than we have in our census count. And so that's why you see the 103. 88% of folks 65 and older have had 2 shots, both doses. The general public here in Evanston, 76% of our residents have had 1 shot. 45% of our residents have had 2 shots. These numbers, any way you measure it, are really pretty remarkable compared to the national metrics, compared to the state, and compared to Cook County. So way to go, Evanston. Keep up the good work, and let's keep getting vaccinated. Couple other points. Folks noticed that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine had been paused. The federal government lifted that pause, saying that the vaccine is safe. The big thing they did is give direction to doctors just to know what to look out for if anyone has certain symptoms and reactions to that vaccine. But Evanston will be holding an event in the coming weeks with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And so if you're looking for just that 1 shot, be on the lookout. Right now, vaccines are available to those 16 and older. We are going to be holding a special event with Amita St. Francis, who's going to be administering the Pfizer vaccine, which is the vaccine that can go to those who are 16 or 17 years old. Moderna starts at 18 and above. So that will be coming up. We have been busy doing home vaccinations for folks who are homebound. We just finished our 4th week, or we're starting our 4th week of home vaccinations, and we'll continue that. Kudos to our fire department who are sending EMSs out to the homes and to help get people vaccinated there. I am really pleased that North Shore University Health System has received a direct allocation from IDPH. So it's something that we've been pushing for as a city for a long time. So they're getting a nice amount of doses. So if you haven't been vaccinated and you're waiting for your doctor to have the vaccine, I think you're going to start to see that coming more and more. This week, we are going to have a combined clinic on Wednesday for second doses and first doses. I want to thank Northwestern University and all of our staff. I toured Bloomquist, which is the facility at Northwestern University last week that we're using to vaccinate. They did just a little less than 1,000 vaccines last Wednesday when I toured that facility. And it's just really impressive. And I really want to thank so many of our volunteers here in Evanston, our residents who have volunteered, whether it's for the MERS or the CERT program, which is the Emergency Management Program, or the Medical Emergency Response Program. There were a lot of familiar faces of people just volunteering there, helping our residents get vaccinated. So thank you to everybody for that. There was a report this weekend in the national news about the number of people not coming back for second shots. It was quite high. It was like 8 million people or so that have had a first shot, were due a second shot and didn't show up for the second shot. Just remember, the vaccine is not fully effective until you've had, if you're on Moderna or Pfizer, until you've had 2 shots and then 2 weeks have lapsed since your second shot, and then you're fully inoculated. I did talk to Ike Ogbo today. We are not seeing a problem here with people not getting a second shot. I think the big challenge that we all have is one of continuing to try to educate folks here in Evanston, some who are hesitant to not take the vaccine, and just getting a message out there about the safety of the vaccine and seeing others in the community get the vaccine. So that's going to be the work that lies ahead. Lastly, we are going to do an event on Saturday coming up in May at one of our community centers. So we've been doing these during the weekdays. We recognize that there are many people that are working during the weekdays and can't get vaccinated. So our public health department is going to adjust that. So that's an update on vaccinations. Keep up the good work, Evanston. And with that, I am going to move to our city manager announcements. Is City Manager Storley with us?
Thank you, Mayor Hagerty. This evening, I am very excited to let Laura Biggs make an announcement about some awards that we won from the American Public Works Association. Pretty exciting. So I'm going to let her have the spotlight and let everyone know about this.
Hi, thank you, Erica. My name's Laura Biggs. I'm the city engineer. Many years we participate in the American Public Works Association Project of the Year recognition program. This award competition starts at a local level where we compete with the North and Northwestern suburbs, and there's different categories you can compete in. So this year, we actually won at our local level in the category for transportation less than $5 million for the Main Street Improvement Project. This project provided critical pedestrian infrastructure and legally compliant ADA access for the Food for Less shopping center, which contains many critical businesses, including a grocery store that support the surrounding neighborhood. So all of our projects are team events. Rajiv Dahal was the project manager, but Stanley Engineering and Landmark Construction, 2 great companies that helped us execute what ended up being a highly complex project in a very tight, congested area. So we won this plaque, which you can see here. And so that is the first award I wanted to present. The second award is we also applied for the Robert Crown Community Center in the category of structures from $25 to $75 million. Now, we not only won the Project of the Year at our local level and at our chapter level, but we were recently notified that we are receiving the National Project of the Year award in this category. This is a really big deal. We have not won at the national level before, so we will actually officially receive the award in September, but I wanted to present this plaque, which we got for the local level. Now, on this project, Stephanie Levine was the project manager, and we were fortunate to have 3 really good partners in Woodhouse Tanucci Architects, Foley and Andrews Construction, and the Friends of Robert Crown, who fundraised a lot of money, have given the city over $9 million, and they continue to collect on their pledges. But with all of the city staff and all of the stakeholders involved, this was a really community-based project. So very excited about that and pleased to present it. And then on a final note, I would like to say thank you to the 80th City Council, because I feel as if we are able to produce these really great projects because we can work in partnership with our elected officials to get clear direction and support for projects that produce a really meaningful quality of life improvement for our residents and our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. I just want to say something before it goes back to Erica. You know, Erica, we never had the party and the celebration that we really envisioned we wanted to have for the new Robert Crown Community Center and library and early childhood and everything else that's on that property. This would be a wonderful celebration to have maybe later in 2021 or 2022 to celebrate this national recognition. It's very exciting.
It is very exciting, and thank you for saying that. Our engineering staff and our city staff on the whole across the board, just wonderful group of professionals. And I am not surprised in the least that this project won at the national level, given the innovation that went into it and the high level of execution that we've all been able to see. That if you haven't had a chance to go over to the Robert Crown Center, go check it out. It's really fantastic. So thank you, Laura. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you to the entire engineering staff, public works staff, and all of the city departments that gave feedback and input on this project. It was definitely a team effort across the board, from Parks and Rec to library to public works to engineering. Everybody really did a phenomenal job, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thanks, everybody.
Excellent.
Outstanding.
All right, thank you, City Manager Storley. We're now going to move to updates from our City Clerk, Devon Reed.
Updates other than, well, of course, we know that next City Council will be sworn in May 10th. The clerk's office will be sending out official notices to folks. There's one step that folks still have to qualify for office, and so we'll be notifying folks of what that is. If you owe any debts to the city, you got to pay those off before May 10th. So if you're coming in and you have a parking ticket that's due or anything like that, just make sure you pay that off before the swearing in. And we'll also be sending out the statements of economic interest and financial disclosure, not statements of economic, the financial disclosure and affiliation forms will be going out to those council members as well. Folks have already received from DARD, OMA, and FOIA training, so they can keep moving with that stuff and get that in before May 10th.
All right, thank you, City Clerk. All right, we're now going to move to public comment. This evening we have, it looks like 24 people signed up for public comment. Given our rules, we set aside 45 minutes for public comment. We take the total number of people that want to talk, divide it by the time that we have. So today, the time is going to be set at a minute 52. I'll give you a minute 52. You have 2 extra sentences. Minute 52 for each speaker. And so we'll keep track of the time. If your time is up, I'm going to say thank you and your first name, and then we need to move on to the next speaker, just to be respectful and make sure everybody is granted the time. Today, we're going to start with Leslie Shad, then Linda Del Bosque, and then Jill Franklin will be our speaker. So welcome, Leslie. You've got a minute 52.
Mayor, some of these folks did end up speaking at P&D, so they may not be speaking at City Council tonight.
Okay, so all right. So if I'll give them a second. If they don't come on, then I'll move to the next one. All right. Do we have Leslie? All right. I don't hear Leslie, so we'll move then to Linda Del Bosque.
Hi, good evening. And thank you to all the council members and Mayor Haggerty for serving City of Evanston for the past 4 years. And so the ones that are moving on, just thank you for your time here. I have been in conversations with Luke Stowe regarding the digital divide. That is a passion of mine. Speaking with the state of Illinois, Matt Schmidt with Connect Illinois, now that the $45 million is half of it's being rewarded already and the other half, I guess, in several months. If we can create a committee, just like we did for the Harley Clark, start speaking about the opportunity for the digital divide. How do we close the digital divide? So providing more of the marginalized communities, our seniors, and of course, small businesses an opportunity to provide free Wi-Fi to people who come and dine and shop and whatnot. So I'm asking for an opportunity to create a committee around this. I know we have a new city council coming on next week and the week after, but this is something for us to start thinking about. Many cities across the United States are already doing it. And not only that, but Governor Pritzker has set over $400 million aside for a grant. So we can combine it and match the grant with the $45 million. I think this is a great opportunity. I've spoke with RCN engineers, the T-Mobile team, and they're willing to come on and work together with the city of Evanston to find a middle ground to provide and close the digital divide here in the city of Evanston. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up, we've got Jill Franklin, then Steve Hart, then Maria Renata. Do we have Jill Franklin with us?
Don't believe so, Mayor.
All right. How about Steve Hart? And Sean, Luke, if you're looking around and you don't see him, you can let me know. That would be great, because I know there's multiple pages here. I can't see them all.
Yeah, I do not see him either.
How about Marie Renata? I had two names signed up under the same, Marie Renata and then Perienne Lete. My apologies for mispronouncing names. I can't even read my own writing. So.
Not seeing them either, Mayor.
All right. How about Alexandra Elliott?
She spoke at P&D.
All right. How about Kyle Campbell? Do we have a separate sign up, Luke, for P&D than we do for City Council?
We do. There was just a number of people who signed up for City Council, but then realized that they actually wanted to speak at P&D, so that's
Gotcha.
why.
All right. Kyle Campbell, is he with us? All right. How about Richard Lanyon? All right. No Richard, it doesn't look like. How about Mary Rosinski?
Time given.
I'm sorry?
I'm here.
Oh,
Hi. Thank you, Mayor Hargitay. I wanted to speak on two things. One was I would hope that we could have more discussion on the abolishment of the Ethics Committee, because I think that's such an important avenue for residents and the council to communicate. Second of all, the Northwestern agreement that's up for discussion today, I think there's a lot of confusion around it. I personally don't like that things are not spelled out, the details are not in there. Times of usage, I know we're saying that they're not going to use prime time, but as you know, everything in real estate does need to be spelled out in writing, and residents should know exactly what their ICE time is being facilitated with, or what I mean is what the agreements are for the facilities that we're paying for. And I appreciate Northwestern wants to use it. I know there's high demand for hockey on the North Shore. I used to have some tenants who lived above me who were hockey players, and they were playing all the time at 10 and 11 o'clock in other communities. So I want people to know it is a high demand in prime time. But more importantly, the thing I want to get out today is I want whatever agreement to be in the future. If Northwestern has already given the Friends money or donation, that's the past. And that has not been approved by the city council, but anything coming forward, because I know one of the FOIAs that I did receive, I did see a payment to the Friends from Northwestern for $330,000. And I just want to make it really clear in the future, we're talking in the future for upfront payments moving forward on that. So I'd like that to be part of the agreement. And there, I don't know if there was one payment or two payments they already made as a donation, but I went through a 800-page FOIA that I received, and the Friends have stated in certain press releases that there's donations and then there's a partnership, but it was nothing has ever been approved by council to accept money for the public facilities. So I want to be really clear and state it by the book on all this, please. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mary. And my understanding is it's had one payment's been made from them. All right.
That's one in 2017?
That was my understanding. I asked that question earlier today and was told it was one.
Yeah, I think that the public needs to know really what, but that's not applied towards this agreement.
My understanding was it was applied to this agreement.
Okay, but there was
We can get, if it's pulled off, we'll get clarification on the.
I think the Friends has no right to negotiate public ice time. So it says it specifically in there that all agreements have to be approved by the city council. So if Northwestern wanted to make a donation to them, that's fine and dandy, but the Friends had no authority to do it, and city council, on behalf of the residents, have to approve it. So today, Lawrence Hemingway did say will, use the term will in the future, and will implies in the future. And I want to keep money straight, and I want everything above the board, and I want everything as clear as glass.
Got it. Thank you. Allison Lupel is next, then Benjamin Kadish, and then Lisa Dreyfus. Do we have Allison with us?
I don't think so, Mayor.
All right. How about Benjamin Kadish? Thought I saw Benjamin.
Yeah.
I'm here, yes.
All right. Welcome.
Hi.
Let's see if we can get your, can we get his video on so people can see him, Luke?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
There you are. Okay. Well, welcome, Ben.
Okay. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Ben Kadish. I'm one of the partners in the property where the Evanston Athletic Club and 5 retail stores were north of us in the corner of Clark and Benson. When the pandemic hit, we lost 4 tenants. Businesses closed. We have a new tenant that wants to lease some space, and we were made aware that prior to the prior special use process would have taken 90 to 120 days. The city's staff has done an unbelievable job outlining what the whole process was, and we hope that the city council supports the amending the old process with the new ordinance. And we thank everybody for their time spent on this subject and the timing to get this thing passed. And we hope to sign a new lease tomorrow with a new tenant to move into the former sports club space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next up, we've got Lisa Dreyfus, then Brian Wolf, then Annie Coakley. We have Lisa with us.
I don't see her, Mayor.
All right. How about Brian Wolf? Say no show for Brian. All right. How about Annie Coakley?
There she is.
Hi.
Welcome, Annie.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Clerk Reed, and members of the City Council. I'm Annie Coakley, the Director of Downtown Evanston. And I'm here tonight to demonstrate my support for the P4 agenda item, the amendment to City Code Title VI to eliminate the substitution of special use process. Downtown Evanston is working to attract new businesses to the Central Business District and to assist landlords in their attraction efforts as well. Small businesses and entrepreneurs right now have several choices of areas where they can open their business. So providing an easier entry to these businesses will help us quickly fill those vacancies as we continue to dig out of this economic downturn. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Annie. Thanks for all the work you've been doing and all the work to come as we get our downtown and other commercial areas within Evanston back up and running. How about Steve Hart? I think I called that name earlier and it was a no-show.
Yeah, I think that's a duplicate.
Okay. How about next up, we've got Ray Freeman, then Mike Vasilko, then Deborah Hirschfield. Do Do we have Ray with us?
Ray is here.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm sorry about that. I was in the other room. Good evening, everyone. Ray Freeman, Second Ward. There's just two items I'd like to address on the agenda tonight. So one is P1, and it appears to ignore all of our city codes, ordinances, rules, and regulations. So P1, it's for introduction, but I mean, I don't understand why it's not following the zoning, the ordinances that we have. Number two is A17 for an RFP to study the feasibility of relocating the Civic Center. There hasn't been any discussion that I know of with residents about relocating the Civic Center. So I think that needs to happen first. And this is for action. Before an RFP goes out, before you try to figure out what we want to do with Civic Center, I think it needs to be discussed with residents. I just wanted to give you a quick update on last week or 2 weeks ago. I talked about not getting notifications, and thank you to Alderman Fleming. I did go back in and I redid my notification settings. So thank you for the advice. The following day, I did get notification I get notifications every day from City of Evanston anyhow. But the next day I got notification saying Fifth Ward meeting was canceled for that Wednesday. Last week was the Fifth Ward meeting, and I didn't get a notification. So I'm wondering, are the notifications sent out by the alderman, or are they sent out by somebody else? And I still didn't get notification today or last Thursday for this city council meeting. I asked Luke Stowe about it today, but he's busy, obviously. Anyhow, to finish up, I want to say congratulations again to Mayor-elect Daniel Biss and all the newly elected aldermen. And I want to say thank you to all the outgoing aldermen and Mayor Haggerty. Best of luck to everyone, and thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ray.
Mayor Haggerty?
Yeah.
Can you have, before we go into the meeting, either City Manager Storley or someone else on staff to explain the confusion with attempting to do the webinar view on the council meetings? Because our meeting wasn't canceled. We did have it, but if they can offer some explanation on what to expect going forward with that, because there was some confusion.
All right, so I couldn't pick up everything you said, Alderman Simmons, but I think what you said is, can we have the city manager's office explain, how this stuff's posted? So, City Manager Storley, I'm going to ask you just to do that at the end. Let's get through public comment, and then you can explain that, just so everybody in the public knows. Okay, so next up we've got Mike Vasilko, then Deborah Hirschfield, then Catherine Godsick. Welcome, Mike.
I don't believe Mike is in the meeting.
Oh. All right, how about Deborah Hirschfield?
I don't believe she is either.
All right, how about Catherine Godsick?
Yes.
I'm here.
All right, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm Catherine Godsick, the Executive Director of the Main Dumpster Mile. And like Annie, I do Annie's job just south of downtown. And like her, I support P4, the text amendment to remove obstacles to new small businesses coming into the city. This amendment will make it easier. It will cut down on time and the money that it takes to invest in the process in order to get here. And the uses that are being put back on the table are make a lot of sense. They're relevant. I would also just like to say that I do trust the staff to make administrative reviews and appreciate their input at all times. They know the businesses almost as well as I do. They know the property owners extremely well. So I am in support. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for being part of the economic development team here. All right, next up, we've got Misty Wittenberg, then Meg Welch, then Jeff Smith. Welcome, Misty.
Hi. Of course, I'm here to talk about ethics again. And just for your attorney, and I can speak with him separately too, but it looks like it still has sections 110.13b and 110.11c. The first one adopts by reference penalties under the State Ethics Act. And so it still has the city administratively adjudicating Class A misdemeanors, which we, as I'm sure you know, we can't do. And then the other one is referral to the state's attorney's office in accordance with the Ethics Act. There's no reference in the act to even accord with, and we have to have an intergovernmental agreement. The state's attorney and attorney general have both said that. I mean, I know this is just for introduction, but just some things to think about. Of course, this is much better than, much more proper, because again, we're prosecuting ordinances instead of ordinance violations. Instead of defending them, I thought it was interesting the board, you guys established it as an adjudicator, as an administrative agency in 2005 to comply with the Gift Ban Act, which was the Ethics Act predecessor. And since 2010, every single ethics complaint heard on record has named a council member as a respondent. We have never enforced an ethics violation or decision or penalty against a respondent. You've only enforced them against citizens. There's a great case in 2012 where Fisk and the former mayor asked for an advisory opinion and then used it to prohibit citizen comment that was critical of them. You guys, we don't have to have an inspector general. It's much more cost effective to have a board. You just have to train them, and you have to not interfere. All of the cases, except for 2, have alder people going or the mayor speaking to board members outside of the hearings, which you can't do. It says that the corporate authorities, which obviously is you guys, you can assign the prosecutorial function to a municipal attorney or to outside counsel. And so you guys have been doing the opposite. And since we haven't had a prosecutor, we've literally just spent $63,000 for something that we could have never prosecuted anyway. That was just wasted money, and possibly money that you guys will have to pay back. So it just needs more time. We actually need somebody who understands statute. You guys, I know there's a lot of stuff about the hubbub about the managerial form of government. That makes council's powers purely legislative. That is under Illinois Municipal Code, Article 5. And you cannot be appointed to the Rules Committee. If you're appointed to such other office, it's a Class 4 felony under the Public Officer Prohibited Activities Act. So you just have to get out of this, pass proper legislation, and then be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Next up, we've got Meg Welch, then Jeff Smith, then Tina Payton. We have Meg Welch.
I don't believe Ms. Welch is online, but we have Jeff Smith.
All right. Okay. Well, welcome, Jeff.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I've got quick comments on 3 items. A17, the RFP for relocating the Civic Center. A little under 4 years ago, Mayor Haggerty said that if the voters don't like something the council or the mayor does, the recourse is to vote them out. I disagree that citizens' role is that narrow, but if the city takes action this major after an election and so soon before the onboarding of a new mayor and 4 new aldermen, even that diluted version of democracy is subverted. Not that long ago, we had a citywide referendum whereby the citizens overwhelmingly directed staying in this civic center. Actions this significant should not be taken by a council and a mayor, half of whom are on the way out. Second item is P4. I support filling vacant storefronts and made some suggestions on how we can do this, but this change to the zoning ordinance was not properly put before the public or the Plan Commission. The text did not appear until this City Council's packet. It is in the city's interest to depoliticize action on special uses and variations by making them more administrative rather than legislative. But these zoning changes impact existing property rights, and standards of due process have to apply. Saying that coming before the Design and Review Committee is sufficient opportunity for notice and comment is just objectively not true. The draft ordinance doesn't provide what due process requires. Also, to the extent that the rationale for this ordinance is city staff saying, we approve everything anyway, so why not speed it up? That's more of a comment on the degree to which the city sometimes doesn't follow its own standards. It's not a reason to change the law in a way that shuts out the public even further. And finally, the city substantively needs to consider the cumulative street deadening effects of replacing storefronts with medical offices. We did a lot of work on this on Central Street. So I think you should send this back to P&D for further discussion with the public and perhaps to the Plan Commission itself. The final item is R1 on the Ethics Commission. I agree that the city shouldn't pay for defensive ethics charges, and I agree with some of the other changes, but the elimination of the entire Ethics Commission itself is too big a change for this council and this mayor to make. It should be held and taken up by the next council and mayor. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, we've got Tina Payden.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Okay, first P4, I hope the special use for the business does not just apply to Dempster or Maine or downtown. I hope this applies to everyone, including small minority business all around the city of Evanston. Also, P6 for the leaf blowers. I object to banning the leaf blowers altogether. You're taking an important tool away for Black and brown jobs. That's mostly who does the lawn, and this is an important tool. And for as many lawns as many of the landscapers do, they cannot use a rake. So for a few minutes, close your ears and listen to the blowers. Also, A5. Is Northwestern buying the Robert Crown? Because it should be that they should purchase it if the citizens will not be able to use Robert Crown. And Northwestern is making a small donation of $1 million for 5 years to use whenever they want to have their staff use the building and whenever they want to. When do the people of Evanston who are paying for the building get to use it? And you should address the cracks in the floor that are going throughout Robert Crown. Also, why are we selling salt to Northwestern? Why can't they buy their own salt? Why do they need to use us? And same with Skokie. That's A11 and 12. A17, no, you should not be paying any money or making any decisions about relocating the Civic Center at this time. This is very important, and the citizens of Evanston need to weigh in on this. No action should be taken on this. Also, P8, yes, I hope that Alderman Ruth Simmons is recusing herself because she is involved with Sunshine Enterprise, the Director of Outreach and Innovation Team, and also that should be discarded as well. We have not discussed this. It seems that before the new council comes in, everyone, not just this project, but it seems like you're just pushing in and pushing through your agenda before you leave City Council. Lastly, there's been meetings that we're not gaining access to via the city website. I've been into 4 meetings this month, and I couldn't get in the meeting, or they changed the Zoom link, or it was canceled. This is improper notification for the citizens of Evanston, and I think it's done on purpose, and it should be eliminated and seek some investigation. Also, lastly, I want to say that I got the city's clapback for my comments when I talk as city council. So I got you, and I received your punishment that you think you're doing to me here and harassing my family once again for many years. And I will be seeing you all in the future for your clapbacks. Black Lives Matter. Have a good night.
All right, thank you, Tina. All right, and our last speaker tonight that I have on my list, Luke, is Carlos Sutton. Welcome, Carlos.
Good evening. Mayor Haggerty, Erica Storley, City Manager, and Devon Reed, members of the City Council. I want to agree very much with the previous speakers, especially Jeff Smith, Mary Rosinski, and Tina Payton. And these items that are up for action tonight, A5, NU ICE, I am very glad to see that OWN made significant contributions to our community youth. It amazes me that Northwestern does not support these kinds of programs for Evanston, but yet we're supposed to provide them with an ice rink that would inconvenience taxpayers who have to pay for this building and won't have access to it. I mean, these are just really very insensitive kinds of things that you need to think about and not decide this evening. Secondly, the salt sale again. Why are we trying to get involved with the city things when their budgets should be appropriated to take care of those kinds of things? The study of relocation. As previous mentioned, many of the constituents of Evanston have claimed it is to be left where it is. So why are you paying someone to have a relocation study? Again, it seems to me that your main intent is when we bring up a concern is for all of you guys to go together and try to get ours silenced or take our rights away. And the Sunshine Agreement, have you done a traffic study on Main Street so close to a child daycare center? Have you done a traffic study with all that traffic on Main there by the railroad tracks? What about the neighbors? Was there a survey done about the neighbors and the use of that alley before you start opening up this as a business? I think it's a bad idea, and you should decide to put this to the next elected city council and not decide it tonight. I'm also against the abolition of equity. And again, I hope in the previous council that you will show more concern and sensitivity to small people in this community and not always show preference to developers. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. I see that Meg Welch has joined us. Meg, do you want to talk? Earlier, I had you as I had called on you earlier, but you weren't here.
I'm not in. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
I guess I'm unmuted now.
Meg,
it's not clear. Just FYI, it's not clear to some of us that we have to comment through the Zoom link that they're emailed. I've been here through the entire meeting. My comments question is directed to the alderman. I would like to know if any of you have scrutinized the contract, the partnership agreement with Northwestern and for the use of the Robert Crown Center. It is a 5-year contract, and although I do understand that Northwestern is not going to be able to use the facility anytime they want, the contract doesn't state that. However, the contract, and I had it pulled up here, trying to multi-window here, but now I'm going to have to just do it from memory. But the ICE times, I'm wondering if any of you have a clear idea in your mind exactly how the community is going to be able to use the, or when they're going to be able to use the rink that Northwestern predominantly uses. There's 178 hours of just hockey skating. Then they also get the rink for 1 day a week for 4 hours, and it's free access for their community. But there was one particular part of the contract that is really very vague. It says that they get dedicated use of meeting rooms for NU educational and outreach programs, including those serving at-risk or low-income youths. 100 hours of room use for that. So it doesn't spell out how many hours of this will be used for serving at-risk low-income youth. It says including, but that's not spelled out. Also, the programs serving at-risk low-income youths, what are those programs? Are they partnering with established community organizations? Are they doing their own? Is there an equity lens used in these programs? I understand that want to get this rolling. Northwestern wants to know when they can set up their schedule, but it's a 5-year agreement, and the community, it's not unreasonable for it to be made very clear to us when this is going to be used, available for property owners who pay taxes, as well as people who rent, etc. And also, it's just curious that I would recommend that if you can't honestly say, alder people, that you are clear on how this is going to be used, that you hold it until, and just have some more discussion, make it clear to the community, make us more comfortable. And if you say that can't be done, then it really implies this whole agreement is already executed. And I'm curious how the $300,000 payment from Northwestern is counted again when this agreement wasn't executed. Is it already executed? So please ask yourselves if you know exactly, you have a very clear idea of how this is going to be used in the community and what these programs are. Who are the at-risk low-income youths? Are we just writing Northwestern a blank check? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Also, Mayor Hagerty, I never received a response to the emails I've sent you about where in fact you did obtain, what list you obtained my personal email from for your endorsement. And I have to say that really isn't okay. You used my personal information, and I asked where you obtained it, and you have not replied.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else, Luke, that we have for this evening?
I don't believe so, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your comments this evening. We're now going to move to the agenda. We have one item of special orders of business, and then the second item is we're actually going to put on the consent agenda. So I'm going to ask if our senior alderman will move SP1 for us for introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance 47021. Our staff is recommending the council approve for introduction ordinance 47021, authorizing the manager to execute a lease agreement for city-owned real property known as the Harley Clark Mansion, located at 2603 Sheridan Road with Artist Bookhouse for the operation of a venue for teaching creative writing, printing books, production of paper, and bookbinding, as well as space for bookstore, library, art gallery, cafe, lecture hall, and classrooms. The lease term is for 40 years, beginning May 10, 2021, and ending May 10, 2061. This is for introduction. I move approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay. All right. So this item was moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions that folks have? All right. Alderwoman Fleming.
Yeah, I had a question in the memo, or maybe in the contract. It talks about the city providing maintenance for the property for up to 5 years while they're doing their capital raise. And so I wanted to know exactly what that maintenance covers. Is that just lawn care? Is that, the hardware inside the building? And kind of what is our maintenance cost now? And, is that going to be in our budget? Also had a question about insurance for the building. So if we're covering maintenance and there is some kind of, really large incident that happens, who is responsible for the insurance for that?
So Sean Scholich, our feed and facility. Sean, are you?
Yes. Hi, Tashik.
I can cover this one for everybody. Sean Cholik, Division Manager of Facilities and Fleet Management. So currently, the maintenance is covered in Section 9 of the agreement, and I'll touch upon a couple of key portions about it. Phase 1 of this project is going to consist of design and bidding. During this phase, the city will continue to maintain the building and the grounds in the condition they are in as is, meaning that we won't put any improvements into it. We're not going to make any drastic changes. We're basically just going to maintain the heating system so that, you know, we can make sure that the heat is adequate during the winter time to get through any concerns of further deterioration of the building. We'll keep the plumbing systems going, but there will be no major modifications or work to it. We'll also, the city will continue to cut the lawns and address any issues with the trees. Once the tenant takes possession of the building as part of phase 2, which is when they formally start their construction, the tenant will then take over the maintenance of the building. And that will include everything from grounds to buildings itself to the facilities, everything in its entirety, except for we'll continue to do the lawns, we'll continue to do the trees, facilities will continue to take care of the grotto pool that's outside, and we will handle the retaining wall that is up against the parking lot for the beach usage. And then snow removal will all be covered as per Exhibit G. And that pretty much describes how the maintenance will go throughout this process.
And so, Sean, you mentioned that we're going to kind of cover as is, but you also mentioned the heating and the water system. So if the furnace or whatever kind of heating system is in there breaks during their capital raise time, whose responsibility is that?
So right now, we don't expect that it would fully go down. We've been able to keep it going for quite many years now, being able to patch it in-house and repair it with any components that we need to get. If for some reason there was some kind of drastic problem with it, then I would think that, that would be something that would be above and beyond our normal maintenance and would have to be covered by the tenant as part of the general improvements.
So I guess my opinion is it would be nice if we had that kind of thing spelled out. I appreciate that you guys have been able to cover those systems thus far, but it's also a very old building, and they have up to 5 years, I believe is correct, to get to phase 2. And so that's a lot of for the
Sure.
age and the amount of staff and our staff stability. So I would much rather have those kind of large things laid out because again, you're talking about an old building. And then what is the insurance coverage on the building and who's responsible for that?
So the insurance coverage, talking with legal, they've clarified that the excess carrier policy that the city has in place already covers the mansion. And if there's additional questions on that, there's probably either, I don't know, Tashik, if you can answer that, or if there's somebody from...
Kelly seems to be here.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, members of City Council. Kelly Gandersky, Deputy City Manager here. I've worked quite extensively on this agreement with the team. Sean is correct. We do have excess carrier policy coverage on this, but we also are requiring under the lease, as you've seen, the tenant to indemnify the city and maintain its own policies of general liability coverage, I believe up to $3 million. To cover any incidents and for any of their contractors, naming the city as an additional insured on their policies as well.
And Kelly, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Does that start after they go into phase 2 or does that start now?
That starts right away. As soon as they'll have to get contractors obviously on board for the work, but their carriers will be expected to tender certificates of liability insurance naming the city as an additional insured.
Okay. And so that, if we can, is it possible, and I know you've worked on this a long time, but maybe no one else is that concerned, but I'm concerned about the maintenance being very vague.
We did spell that out. Tashik, I don't know if you can quickly point to the section, but I remember specifically we wanted to spell out what we would do and what we wouldn't do. And that's also covered in one of our exhibits with regard to snow and ice removal, what the city currently does, what the city will continue to do. If you want, we can point that out if Tashik can reference it quickly. Otherwise, we can, of course, follow up with you on a response to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I did read it. It's just a bazillion pages.
I know. It's long.
You try to find it as we're talking, but if you feel like it's covered, I can defer to other people if they have questions, but those were my only concerns.
Yeah, that was definitely a concern of ours as well. And I believe of Artist Bookhouse, we wanted to make sure that that was spelled out in the latest version.
All right, so lastly, Sean, what's kind of our average cost for maintenance now, just for the stuff we've been doing?
I couldn't really give you an average cost off the top of my head. I would say that it's fairly minimal. It's, basically just keeping the systems going. So HVAC technicians go in, they do their seasonal startups and shutdowns. If they need to, there's probably a few labor hours put into it, maybe a couple small components, but nothing too drastic at this point. The only other things that we run into is if a window gets broken or something like that, just boarding it up and making sure that we're enclosing the space again. So any costs right now are pretty limited.
Okay, well, given, this has been a forever conversation, given the time we're giving them to raise capital, I think it, in my opinion, is fair to ask them to cover some of those, cutting the grass and such. I think they're still renting it for $1 a month or $1 a year, whatever it is. So I just would have liked for us to try to, not have any expenses, even the small ones, going to this project, given the amount of time we've already cared for it with the last tenant and then when it's been empty.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderman Wilson.
And maybe one of the ways we can help address that, I recall that the Friends of Harley Clark had advised us that they had done some fundraising and had some money to put towards stabilizing the building. So I don't see any reason why it's not part of this agreement, but I think we should probably reach out to them, and hopefully that offer is still on the table, and that would, help cover some of this stabilization if their offer is still good. So I think we should look into that.
All right. Thank you, Alderman Wilson. Yeah, any other comments or questions on this item?
Mayor Aggerty, I just want to reference the maintenance. It's section 9 and it spans 2 pages. Section 9 and it's on page 12.
All right, thank you, Tashik. All right, so if anybody's looking for that, page 12, section 9 of the contract. All right, seeing no further comments or questions, this is SP1 Ordinance 47-0-21, lease of city-owned property located at 2603 Sheridan to Artist Bookhouse. It's for introduction. It was moved and seconded. I'm going to ask the city clerk if he'll take the roll, please.
Wynn.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, and did we get, okay. Thank you, Clerk Reed. SP1 Ordinance 47-0-21, which is the lease of the Harley Clark Mansion to Evanston Bookhouse, passes for introduction on a 9-0 vote. So, City Manager, you heard the discussion tonight, perhaps between this and then our final one vote next in 2 weeks. You can just look into some of the questions that were raised. All right, we're now going to move to the consent agenda. I will note, because it's just a little unusual, SP2 is part of the consent agenda unless someone chooses to remove it. We talked at length about SP2, which was the 2020 budget amendment at the last City Council meeting. So that's why we've put that on for the consent agenda. I know we did have Administration and Public Works and Planning and Development tonight. So I will ask Alderman if you want to identify any items you would like to remove from the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Alderman Nguyen?
Yes, for P&D, would you please remove P8 and P6?
P8 and P6 are off. Okay.
You remove A5, is R1 on consent? Yes, I believe it is, right?
R1, is that the rule? Oh, what's R1?
Ethics board.
That's rules. Yep, R1's off. Okay.
And AP1,
What was the next one?
is it AP1, the
Yeah,
appointment?
AP1 is the boards. Yep. Okay.
And then A2, A4, and A6.
All right.
And P5 did not get out of committee.
All
Was
right.
that, Alderman Ravel, was that P5 or P6?
P5.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, my notes were confused then.
All right, so P5, which was the extension of the U2 zoning district, failed in committee.
Yes, that's correct. So please leave P6 on.
And then also remove R1, please.
R1's off. Yep. Okay. All right, so I'm going to rattle off what we have off is we have
Mr. Mayor, A21 was held in committee. So that one can come off as well.
All right, thank you. A21, the restricted parkway plantings.
Yes.
All right, held in committee. All right, thank you. All right, so right now, the council has asked to pull off the agenda A2, A4, A5, A6, P6, P8, R1, and AP1. Is there anything else?
I got one, A27.
Mr. Mayor, I believe it's P5, not P6.
P5 off, not P6, okay?
That's correct.
No, P5, it's not on the consent agenda because it failed in committee. Before you had asked for P6 to be taken off, which was the leaf blower policy.
Okay, leave P6 on, please.
So P6, unless somebody else wants it off, that's staying on the consent agenda, okay?
But P5 is removed from the consent agenda because it failed in committee.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got it. All right, anything else? Okay, seeing none, Alderman Suffredin, could you move the consent agenda?
Sure. I moved the consent calendar with the exception of the items that were removed.
Which are A2, A4, A5, A6, P8, R1, and API.
Correct. Is there a second?
Second.
Did I hear 821?
821 is held.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, so City Clerk, could you please take the roll on the consent agenda?
I'm sorry, Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons? Aye. Alderman Suffredin?
Aye.
Alderman Ravel? Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Sorry, Alderman.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye. All right, thank you, Clerk. The consent agenda passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote. We're now going to move to the items that were removed. We're going to start with A2. Because Alderman Suffredin has to recuse on that, I'm just going to ask Alderman Rainey if you will move A2 for that.
Yes. A2, staff recommends approval of the City of Evanston's BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity for the period ending February 28, in the amount of $5,619.80. I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, thank you. All right, seeing no discussion, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on A2?
Yes. Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
I abstain.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye. Thank you, Clerk. Item A2, approval of BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-0 vote with Alderman Sufferton abstaining. Alderman Sufferton, could you move A4, please?
Sure. A4 is approval of the 2021 special events. Staff recommends City Council approval of 2021 special events that meet the current COVID-19 guidelines. Staff also recommends conditional approval of the remaining special events that are contingent upon COVID-19 guideline updates for future phases of the Restore Illinois plan. Cost for city services provided for events require 100% reimbursement from the sponsoring organization or event coordinator. These fees are waived for city events and city co-sponsored events. This is for action.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, so this item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions?
There was an amendment in committee, and I just want to make sure that we make a note of that this moved as amended by Alderman Ravel's suggestion.
All right, could you describe the amendment so everybody knows before we vote?
Sure, it changed the dates, I believe, from whatever was included originally to June 4th to September 17th and June 5th to September 18th. Is that accurate, Alderman Ravel?
Yeah, right. Basically, it's making it a 4-month series rather than a 5-month series of concerts.
Okay. All right. Series of concerts. So that's what passed out of committee to this council. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on A4, approval of 2021 special events as amended in committee before the City Council?
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye. Can you not hear me?
Oh, no, yeah, I couldn't hear you. Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye. All right. On a 9-0 vote, the Evanston City Council approved the 2021 special events. Alderman Sufferton, could you please move A5?
I move approval of a program partnership agreement with Northwestern University for the use of Robert Crown Community Center. Staff recommends the City Council authorize the city manager to execute a program partnership agreement with Northwestern University to provide access to use the ice rinks, locker rooms, classrooms, and hockey storage space at the Robert Crown Community Center. The agreement calls for the payment of the $1 million to be paid over a 3-year period, while allowing the university to utilize agreed upon usage of the facility equal to or lesser than the value of $1 million for up to a maximum of 5 years. Revenues will be deposited into revenue account Crown Construction Fund donations. This is for action.
Second.
Or second? Second. All right. So this item now is open for any questions or discussion. Alderwoman Fleming.
Yes, thank you. So you had a discussion with, I can't remember if it was Meg or Mary about a payment that was made before, and she made a comment about that, but we didn't have any context. So can the city manager give context regarding the payment that you mentioned, Mayor Haggerty?
You bet. So City Manager Storley, can you give everybody a update on how the payments are going to work under this agreement and what's been paid to date? And is that apply, or is it a separate million on top of what they've already given?
Certainly. So thank you for bringing that up. Northwestern has made one payment towards the $1 million commitment. We did receive that, I believe, in 2017 or 2018. That was then passed through from Friends to the city, and we have received it. They still have a remaining balance of $1 million, and the entirety of that commitment goes to this agreement.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was confused, I think. So they paid $300,000 already, which comes out of, we're deducting out of the $1 million pledge.
Correct.
Okay. But they have not yet started using ice time and classroom space and such.
Correct.
Okay. All right, and so they're going to pay over the next 2 years, right? Because of the 3-year payment cycle that started, I guess, in 2017.
I don't know the specifics of this payment schedule, but I do understand that they plan to make a yearly payment starting this year and a yearly payment starting next year. So then the bulk of this would be paid off by the end of next year.
Okay. All right, so I think that there was still, at least on my part, I talked to Director Hemingway and read the information again. This is not a donation. This is kind of a payment in advance of ice time and classroom space that they will use over the next 5 years. I think we have to be really clear about what this is. That's correct? Okay. And then it says dedicated class space, but Director Hemingway has said there is no dedicated class space. They will have opportunity to use class space as it is available.
That's correct. When we use the term dedicated in these agreements, we've used it for other agreements as well. We just mean that they're not going to have other people in the classroom with them at the same time or other people at the same time.
Okay, because I understood that to read like on their own classroom. Okay, and then my last question I think for this is the money is going to Friends of Crown because they initially asked for the donation, and it's kind of counting towards Friends of Crown's overall donation to the city?
Correct.
Okay, so I will support this, although I think the memo itself and the conversation left them to be desire some clarity points. And given that it's Robert Crown and it's been quite attention for some residents, I think it was, we didn't do a great job of explaining kind of what this was. I had no idea that they had paid $300,000 back in 2017, so to learn that kind of in public comment was a little bit frustrating. So I think if we can, Director Hemingway, if you can update the Robert Crown page or wherever you can do that with the ice times that they have used in the past and what dedicated means and doesn't mean, and Erica, whatever you can add for clarity in terms of this not being a contribution, when the payments will come in. Alderman Simmons made a point about them maybe not even being able to use the whole $1 million, and so we just need to have some real clear points on this so that we can all kind of move and enjoy Robert Crown and not continue to have these conversations that might be a little more frustrating.
Any other questions or comments? Alderman Suffren.
I guess I need further clarification. And I sent the letter that Mary Rosinski referenced. So just help me understand. The president of Friends of Robert Crown acknowledged receipt of a third of this $1 million from Northwestern and stated that no goods or services were provided in return for this contribution. But we are going to provide them with $1 million, up to $1 million worth of use of Robert Crown in exchange for the $1 million that was a third received in 2017?
We will be providing them up to $1 million. If it's plausible that they can utilize $1 million worth of time in 5 years, the average use that they've had the past 5 years has been about $70,000 a year. I think they have every intention of making a best effort to put programming in Robert Crown that serves the community. That was another question earlier today about how much of the use of the classroom space would be for programs that benefit the community. All of it. The answer is all of it. They don't intend to run any other programming in the space that benefits anybody other than Evanston residents. So I do believe that they would like to try to utilize as much of the $1 million as possible. But I don't believe it's that practical given their historic being only approximately $75,000 a year. Now with, of course, us increasing the rates due to the new facility and them utilizing the additional classroom space, I'm sure their usage will be more. But I do think that overall, this does benefit the city in that some portion of that $1 million may end up being a donation because they simply won't be able to practically utilize the facility enough to garner $1 million worth of usage.
Okay, but, I mean, Friends of Robert Crown are booking this as a contribution, but it's not a contribution, it's a payment for services, correct?
In a sense, it's prepaid services, but one could also look at it as we don't know how much they would be able to use over 5 years, and so we don't know what the net donation will be.
But we're counting this against Friends of Robert Crown's commitment to raise, the amount that they're supposed to raise, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But it's not a contribution, it's a fee for use.
In a sense, yes.
Okay. All right. I think there's enough ambiguity here that it's worth considering holding this. I realize this is the last meeting for many of you, and there's not going to be a lot of appetite to do that. But I think there's enough questions that are unanswered here that you should consider doing that. And if there's another alderman who will join me, that's great. And if not, I plan to just vote no.
All right,
No, I do have, I'm sorry. Now that raised another question for me. I did not read Mary's letter. So we said in the letter, in 2017, I imagine there was some other discussion that maybe was not fees, because if the letter says this is not for fees and services, but it is for fees and services, I mean, I guess that's kind of a technicality, but again, given all that we walked into regarding the concerns about the outside fundraising for Crown, you know, I don't want to hold it either, but I think to get all this clear in a clearer memo with some guesses, even by Mr. Hemingway, or some, like you said, past data points about the time that they use, I would rather hold it and get all that in one memo so that it's very clear, so that the next council isn't coming in with still questions about Robert Crown, and we can move on to Civic Center and Harley Clark and other items we're going to need to tackle with the new council. So if you're making a motion, Alderman Sutton, and I can second it, but Alderman Wilson has a hand up.
All right, we'll go to Alderman Wilson and then Ruth Simmons.
Well, I just, you know, I'm, because somebody put something down that's not completely accurate 5 years ago doesn't, or 4 years ago, doesn't mean that we don't take the money. And there's nothing that's not clear here. So it's, you know, I heard the APW conversation, I heard the conversation now. It's clear, it's dwelled on, it's over, you know, discussed. It's prepayment of ice time. And that's one of the reasons why 2 rinks were built in the facility. It's to generate revenue to fund all of the other stuff in the building that's part of a, you know, community center that doesn't charge for the use. There's a walking track that people use for free. There is a library in the building. There is space for birthday parties. There is a gym. There's all the other stuff. There's the fields that literally have hundreds of people playing on them every day. A huge portion of them are out just, you know, playing pickup games with their kids. But part of that is a model that requires the facility to generate revenue to pay for all the rest of it. So the fact that somebody's prepaying for a huge chunk of the product and we're questioning it, or like, what are we going to do, give the money back? I just kind of think it's getting a little odd here. So, you know, I say we take the money, book the time, and that's the purpose of this. There's plenty of other ice time for the community and the other groups, and that's why you know, people keep saying, why did you build 2 rinks? It's to generate revenue to help fund the rest of an amazing community center that just won an award as the best project in the country. So, you know, to your point, Alderman Fleming, yeah, let's move past it. It's clear, nothing's hidden from anybody. It's totally transparent. I'm not calling it a donation. I'm saying, and everybody else has explained it. Mr. Hemingway, Director Hemingway has you know, explained it very clearly. There's a very, very clear, unequivocal record on this. So let's move on and get to the next things.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Ruth Simmons and then Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you. I had not much more to add than Alderman Wilson. Just, I guess I'm only confused on what part we're confused on. at this point. It seems very clear. And if we could just request that, can you not hear me? If we could
We
request
can't hear you we can't hear you as clearly as we did Alderman Wilson.
Okay, if we could even
turn on your
request,
microphone
if
in
it
front of you.
matters to the Friends of Crown, that they change their language or whatever, but to not move forward because of some confusion. The confusion still hasn't been articulated to me, and I would like to see us move forward. Again, the agreement is not giving any sort of subsidized rate for the usage. They're not taking up prime rental time. It seems like all boxes are checked in terms of this being an agreement in our favor as a city, and the programming is going to support Digital Divas and other important classroom programming. I'm hoping that we can move forward in support of this as we have it on the agenda today. Thank you. I support it.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I make the comments, whether it's the new council or old council, I think it's super important for residents to understand that how important it is to come to committee meetings, because a lot of these questions that are even being raised right now, we had discussed. So I'll repeat the comments and what I learned from the director earlier this evening. And my caveat is, I don't go to Robert Crown for the ice, but I don't think I've ever been there and I've run into a Northwestern ice hockey player. And so it's important to note that Director Hemingway at our top of our meeting at AP&W shared that their ice time isn't changing. Now, I don't think anything's changed since the last meeting, so they're there super early in the morning or late at night. And so for those, if the concern is that all of a sudden we're going to see purple and white students running through Crown all sorts of hours of the day, that is not the fact that I've come to understand. And so in addition to their normal skate time that they've done previously, we still have an extra sheet of ice. So I'm really not sure where the confusion or what problem we're trying to solve by holding it. But I do think we should move forward. I think there's income to be generated, and we will continue to generate income from that community center. So I'm fine to move forward with this in its present, how it's written. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Suffern.
Yeah, just, again, I am not looking to turn down $1 million, but I think it's critical to note that it wasn't somebody who did this. It was the president of Friends of Robert Crown wrote in a letter to Northwestern in 2017 that no goods or services were provided in return for this contribution. They use the word contribution. It's not a contribution if it's purchasing ice time, which is fine. My concern isn't that we don't have enough ice time to go around, but then it should be booked as a contribution against Friends of Robert Crown's pledge for how much they're going to raise, because it's not a contribution, it's selling ice time. And I want to get the money into the city, but we're getting the money in by selling ice time, not by receiving a contribution from Northwestern. That's not a small distinction.
But, okay. The city, just so we're clear, Friends of Robert Crown is separate from the city, right? The city's not doing anything wrong. We didn't issue that letter, right? Presumably we could go back to Friends of Crown and just say, hey, you ought to take a look at this because, it's in lieu of, they're getting something in return for this $1 million. I'm not quite sure why that potentially holds it up.
Well, Friends of Robert Crown is selling our ice time, as a city, in exchange for $1 million, not receiving a contribution, which is how they are presenting this to Northwestern, and are presenting this as we measure against their commitment on how much money they're going to raise. And Alderman Wilson, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to hear your explanation for why I'm wrong.
All right, lots of hands up. Alderman Wilson, then Alderman Rainey, then, or do you want to say something first, City Manager Storley?
I do. I just wanted to say that there's perhaps another way to look at this, in that the $370-some thousand that was referenced in that letter, for which no goods are being received, is perhaps the community service component of this, whereby Evanston residents will be receiving the programming that they'll be providing at the center, and any other portion of the money that there was no letter provided that goods or services wouldn't be received for could be looked at as allocated towards such. So because we know that less than $700,000 of that pledge will be redeemed for ICE, it's plausible that we could look at the amount of money that was allocated from that letter could be looked at as a community service value versus prepaid ICE time.
Thank you, City Manager. Alderman Wilson, then Alderman Rainey.
Thank you. And so, this 2017 letter, from looking at it, I didn't write it or send it. I'm going to guess it's a form letter. I'm going to guess that probably everybody that sent a check to them got a similar letter, and it was probably generated off of somebody's computer. Now, that aside, it's not a contract or an agreement between the City of Evanston. The agreement between the City of Evanston and Northwestern is the document that we are going to approve or not approve. That's the contract. So you can take the 2017 letter and ball it up and throw it in the trash because it's irrelevant to anything that we're executing. That they're not parties to our agreement, they're not parties to our contract. If somebody, booked something wrong from a tax perspective, between themselves, that's their problem, not our problem. So, this is not our issue. Our issue is, do we want to accept the prepayment for this for all of this time? And I think we should, because that's part of the business model here. There's no reason to turn this down. There's no reason to wait. What I don't want to do is to jeopardize the agreement. If you start pushing back and acting, irrationally, people are going to question whether or not they want to do this. We already lost a $500,000 donation from a different organization in the past year and a half or so. So I don't want to be in a situation where we're writing a check back to Northwestern and they decide, okay, we'll just go and continue to use the other ice rinks that we've been using elsewhere. This is a good deal from a business perspective, and we're fixating on this letter from years ago, but it's not the agreement. It has nothing to do with our contract. Here's our contract that the council is approving. They didn't negotiate it. Our staff negotiated this. So it's time to move on and again, on to the next thing.
Okay. I don't know that it's irrational to
Wait, it's my turn.
Get further clarification and have the new city council that will be sworn in 2 weeks be the ones to vote on this. That's not irrational. That seems to me like that's prudent.
Can't even understand.
You'll feel really good when Northwestern calls us next Thursday and says, we want our $330,000 back. How are you going to explain that to the taxpayers? Just like we gave up the $500,000 donation to the other group. There's no reason not to approve this. Other than, I want somebody else to vote on it. Why? Nobody's articulated a reason not to approve this other than this letter, which is irrelevant.
All right, we got several other people that want to make some comments here. Let's go, Alderman Rainey.
All right, here is what we're voting on. Here's what we're voting on. Quote, the agreement calls for the payment of the $1 million to be paid over a 3-year period, while allowing the university to utilize agreed-upon usage of the facility equal to or lesser than the value of $1 million for up to a maximum of 5 years. It states right here very clearly that $1 million of usage of the facility or less. That's what it says right here. It doesn't say anything about a letter in 2017. The agreement is for the payment of $1 million over a 3-year period for usage of the facility equal to or lesser than the value of $1 million. I mean, that's what it says. It states right here. We're not going to give them, I trust, we're going to keep good track, 1 hour more than the value up to $1 million. It's kind of simple, actually. So I call the question.
Thank you.
I call the question, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so the question has been called.
We have to vote on calling the question.
Well, let's do that.
That's true. All right, City Clerk, could you take a vote on calling the question?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, Nicholas Cummins, Corporation Counsel. Voting on calling the question is not required. It's a superior motion. It requires for immediate vote on the the motion that's on the floor.
But our council rules specify that we're supposed to vote on calling the question.
I agree with Alderman Ravel.
I don't remember seeing that happen before.
Clerk Reed, why don't we just go and we're taking a vote on calling the question or not. And if people want to continue to have conversation, then they vote no and consider more conversation or other actions.
I thought there was a motion on the floor,
That's the motion.
Sorry, I'm hearing muffled.
We're voting to call the question.
It was moved and seconded by Alderman Fleming to hold this.
She didn't.
This supersedes it.
I did say
I
I seconded if he hadn't made a motion. I didn't know if he made a motion or not.
Did.
She didn't second it.
You moved and
I
seconded.
did second it.
I heard the whole moved and seconded.
That's at the point.
What should have ended debate
But
then.
then we went on to have comment, so we want to go.
I never heard who moved it to hold it?
So can we just vote on the
The
question?
sound is,
Wait,
I think there's a hold.
Who moved to hold it? I didn't hear a motion to hold. I heard Alderman Fleming say that she would support a motion to hold, but I didn't hear an original motion.
There was.
I moved to hold it. Alderman Fleming seconded it.
You moved to hold
No,
it.
we didn't hear that.
Yes.
Right,
I did think
moved-
that Alderwoman Fleming said something to the effect of, I would support that, but there were a bunch of hands up, and so we continued to have a conversation.
There's
So there was
You
no
know,
second.
so
then.
Nick, I guess I'm looking to you because,
I
you know,
think the hold would supersede the calling.
I'm looking for Nick Cummins, our city attorney, on this. I mean, because we did obviously have the conversation, Alderman Suffredin and Fleming were considering a hold. And then we got a call for the question. So can you give us your thoughts on how we move forward right now?
So I guess the debate issue right now is the motion that I heard was to actually move A5 for discussion. It was a move approval. I did not hear a motion to hold the item. Then Alderman Rainey called the question. If the question on the floor was to move approval, that is the question to be called. I apologize, Alderman Ravel is correct. It does require 6 votes of City Council to call the question. If there actually is a hold, there requires 6 votes to overrule that hold.
Okay. So
that's where we are. So I'm not really sure. Honestly, I'm not really clear which motion is on the floor. My understanding is the motion on the floor is to move approval of A5.
My apologies. As the clerk and the keeper of the proceedings of the council, my understanding as the clerk is that there is a motion to hold and a second.
I
from
moved to
Alderman
overrule.
second.
And the motion overruled would require, from my understanding, a unanimous vote because it'd be suspending the rules, would it not be?
Oh, no.
No.
6 votes to overrule. A hold.
So,
6 votes.
Nick, either way, if we were, if we're doing the whether this council wants to take a vote or not right now, we have to have 6 votes. If we don't have 6 votes, then they could move to hold it. But I didn't realize, like, if they move to hold, I thought there was an automatic hold till the next council meeting in our rules. That we didn't have to, that you couldn't then move to override a hold of council members.
Yeah, we can override.
If it's
the hold.
held, it has to be held, you're correct, to the next council meeting. That's if it's held. But it can be voted not to hold.
Right. So, point of order. So, Mayor Haggerty, generally speaking, when we move to hold and there's a second, as a matter of courtesy, we don't override the hold. But we can override the hold. We can vote to override the hold. Isn't that correct, Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
That's correct.
But don't we also, when there's a hold and a second, don't we usually stop discussion?
Well, I think at this point, this discussion is stopped, and I believe it's Alderman Rainey has made a move to override the hold, and I seconded it.
Yes.
That's fine, I'm just saying, for point of clarity, when usually we have a motion to hold and a second, we stop conversation.
Yeah.
So if we're just clarifying things, that is usually how we do it.
That is correct, Alderman Fleming. The motion.
So if we're going to call the question, I'm fine with that. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying if we're going to be technical about the rules, we need to do them all the time.
All right, so Clerk Reed, take the roll on calling the question.
Wait,
And
point of order,
overruling-
I'm sorry,
overruling.
Mr. Haggerty, Mayor Haggerty, what is the question?
I thought the question was whether we're taking a vote right now or not, and we had to call the question, which took 6 votes to actually then take the vote.
You have to call the question, you have to
Sorry, I think there's a hold, which
close debate.
Who heard a hold? I didn't hear a hold.
I didn't hear a hold.
Alderman Suffredin and Alderman Fleming made a motion.
I heard Alderman Fleming say if that was a motion, I would support it, but I don't remember there being an emotion to precede that.
Why don't we have the clerk play back
The votes are going to be the same no matter what. I have no illusions that you will hold it. So let's give us the process in front, do the votes. These will be some of the votes that we'll all be held accountable for, and then there's.
I can't understand a word he's saying.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, Clerk Reed has determined that the motion on the floor is to hold A5. And I heard Alderman Rainey move to overrule that in accordance with City Council Rule 1812. If there's a second, then the motion, if there's a second, and the question then that motion to overrule actually supersedes the motion to hold. And so the question to be called right now is whether there's 6 votes to overrule the hold.
Okay.
So we're going to vote on overruling the hold.
City Clerk, can you take the roll?
Yes. Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
No.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
No.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, so on a 7-2 vote, the hold is overruled. City Clerk, could you please take the roll on A5, approval of a program partnership agreement with Northwestern University for the use of the Robert Crown Community Center, and this is for action.
Nguyen. I'm sorry, Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
No.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
No.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk Reed. On a 7-2 vote, the Evanston City Council approves the program partnership agreement with Northwestern University for the use of Robert Crown Community Center. Alderman Suffredin, can you please move A6?
Sure. I move item A6, which is approval for a sole source purchase agreement with Insane Impact for a portable LED screen. Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute a sole source purchase agreement with Insane Impact in the amount of $119,250 for a portable LED screen that will be used to provide additional COVID-safe outdoor recreational opportunities for the community. Funding will be provided by the Capital Improvement Fund 2021 General Obligation Bonds. While this purchase was not budgeted, funding is available through savings in the McCullough Park project and use of the park's contingency. The return on the investment will be achieved in less than 3 years due to the reduced staffing needed to implement, as well as no longer renting the equipment on an annual basis. This is for action.
Second.
All right, so this item's open for any questions or discussion. All right, seeing none, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on A6?
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
No.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman and Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
A6, approval of the sole source purchase agreement with Insane Impact for a portable LED screen, passed for action 8-1 by the Evanston City Council. Thank you. We're now going to move to P8. Alderman Fisk, could you please move P8?
Mr. Mayor, could you ask Alderman Nguyen to do that, please?
All right, Alderman Nguyen, could you please move P8?
Yes.
Yes. Item P8 is ordinance 34-021, granting a special use for a mixed-use business model that includes a business vocational school, Sunshine Enterprises, in the I-1 Industrial Office District and the Overlay Redevelopment District. I move approval.
Second.
Okay, this is open for any discussion or questions.
I believe it's been taken off, Mr. Mayor, because Alderman Rusimans is going to recuse herself.
Okay. So, all right. Per our rules, do aldermen have to describe why they're accusing themselves for the record?
When it's her turn to vote.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Nicholas Cummings, members of City Council. Nicholas Cummings, Corporation Council, yes, they do have to explain why they're recusing themselves.
Alderman Rusimans.
Thought I would do that when it was my time to abstain, but exercising an abundance of caution, I am abstaining from this vote. Sunshine Enterprises has been a tremendous asset to this community and to me personally, having been employed there for 5 years. I do want to note that Sunshine Enterprises is not the applicant, is not the business, and is not even a tenant. So why there is so much interest in Sunshine Enterprises, I don't know, but it's consistent. So I am recusing myself.
All right, thank you, Alderwoman. All right, seeing no more questions or comments on P8, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on P8, Ordinance 34-0-21?
Nguyen. Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Rusimans.
I abstain.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk. On a 8-0 vote, the Evanston City Council passed for action ordinance 34-0-21, granting a special use for a mixed-use business model that includes a business vocational school, Sunshine Enterprises, in the L1, no, it's not L1, but Industrial 1 Industrial Office District and ORD Redevelopment Overlay District.
Before we, a point of clarification on item P4, that passed planning and development with an amendment, and we moved it on the consent agenda. And I'll let Alderman Nguyen, who was in the chair, take over on that if she'd like.
Yes, Alderman Suffredin, that's exactly what I was raising my hand about. Our Corporation Council has said that what we need to do is clarify that that we amended P4 to include a review and revisit of the ordinance in 2 years.
Okay.
P4 was the alteration of our special use process, and the committee, P&D committee, decided that we should include in it an amendment that allows us to revisit and review the ordinance in 2 years.
All right, so Alderman Nguyen, just to, I think, clean this up, can you move P4? Why don't we just, with that amendment that passed out of committee, and we'll just take a vote on this item.
Okay, so P4 is ordinance 48021, amending Title VI, the zoning ordinance, to eliminate the substitution of special use process, modify listed special uses in non-residential and non-university districts, establish an administrative review use process, and administrative review uses in non-residential and non-university districts. Modified this and the committee to include an amendment that required the city council to revisit and review the ordinance in 2 years' time. I move approval.
Second.
Second.
All right, Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Alderman Nguyen, I apologize. I left the meeting early before I could hear the conversation. Whether it's this location or any other location that's going to be bought by the owners, I'm just trying to get an understanding of what exactly is.
Alderman Braithwaite, this ordinance has to do with the revising the special use process. Doesn't have to do with a specific property. This is just that we'll go back and review this ordinance, which has modified our special use process in order to speed it up for applicants. So what we did, okay. So what we're, the amendment is so that in 2 years' time, we will take a look at this and determine whether this was effective, whether we want to modify it anymore, what the results are.
Thank you very much for the clarification. And not to hold it up, I would just only ask staff, whoever's staffing P&D, just to include that in the final memo so there's no confusion. So thank you very much for that clarification, Alderman.
Well, this is for introduction tonight, so when it comes back for action in 2 weeks.
I mean, it's in my ward, so I was paying attention to it. I just missed that edit at the end, and I just wanted clarification.
All right, but this is citywide too, so it's not just second ward, it's
That's to my point.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, so is there any other comments or questions on this? Otherwise, again, just to be clear, it passed out of committee, amended, and this count, and the amendment was after 2 years, there'll be a review process of this. Seeing no more comments or questions, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on P4?
Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk Reed. P4, Ordinance 48-0-21 passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote for introduction as amended, allowing the after 2 years of review process. Alderman Sufferton, can you please move R1?
Sure. I move item R1, which is 20-021, amending Title I, Chapter 10 of the Evanston City Code. City of Evanston Code of Ethics and Board of Ethics staff recommends the City Council adoption of Ordinance 20-012, amending Title I, Chapter 10 of the Evanston Code, City of Evanston Code of Ethics and Board of Ethics for introduction.
Second? Is there a second to this item?
Second.
All right. So the floor is open for any questions or comments, discussion. Alderwoman Fleming?
I have a question. Two things. Next, for the public, can you, I believe there were a couple modifications made, if I'm correct. If you can just say what those are. And then also, Alderman Ravel brought this up last time. I would like it if we could look at the Skokie model and see if that was something that we can look to implement here. I have concerns just with us going to this new model of one attorney, whether they are outsourced or however we bring them in, that we are losing citizens. And that people who have come to the ethics board have concerns, even I would have concerns about something where this is the only really real way for people to kind of bring issues with our behavior or what we do, and not have a citizen who they feel like might be impartial to their case.
Good evening. Again, Nicholas Cummings, Corporation Counsel. So the memo has been updated to include some questions that Councilmember Ravel has asked in the Rules Committee. And one of those was the Skokie model. And so Skokie's Board of Ethics somewhat models ours, with one exception, at least according to their Corporation Counsel. There's some stipulations as to who can actually serve on their Board of Ethics. The people who serve on their Board of Ethics are either attorneys or faith leaders in the community. They do not have a special counsel to adjudicate those, or at least prosecute those ethics complaints. But they do have an ethics officer who can be a contracted party or can be an employee of the city. Wilmette's ethics officer is their corporation counsel. And so that's their model. They don't really have anything else outlined statutorily with respect to a board of ethics. The other thing that we added was a flow chart that Council Member Fleming asked for at Rules Committee. So there is a flow chart attached to the memo, which goes through the course of how this would actually work. Just wanted to remind Council that this is for introduction, so if there are amendments that need to be made, we can certainly do them before it's taken up for action. There was one comment made by a community member concerning the provisions of the code that were adopted by this. I've made note of that. That can certainly be amended. The reference to the state's attorney's office, the language in that the AG states, it says that the state's attorney may, or they're not required to take a referral. It's just a matter of if, for whatever reason, at the end of this process, it's been determined that whoever it was, whether it be an alderperson or an employee of the city, violated the State Ethics Act in a way that would be a Class A misdemeanor, that can be referred to the state's attorney, but it's up to the state's attorney if they actually want to prosecute it or not. It wouldn't necessarily be a violation of our ordinance. It would be, we're telling the state's attorney that we have a finding that they violated state law. With respect to training the board members, which sort of relates to your question regarding the Skokie board, it was stated in public comment that we need someone who understands laws and statutes. And in the model that we currently have, we actually hire a special counsel to advise the board for that specific purpose, because the board members are members of the community and may not necessarily have training with respect to the rules of evidence and how to apply the law to the facts. And so we have an attorney that's supposed to advise them, but even that has raised issues. And there's a lawsuit in court right now, including that attorney as a defendant for what was believed to be an improper role that they played. The model proposed, and I certainly understand Councilmember Fleming's concerns, the model proposed just makes this cleaner for the city and makes sure that all the rights secured, due process rights, opportunity to be heard and to be properly adjudicated by the proper body is done, instead of my office fighting due process claims in circuit court. All the hearing and process goes through properly. And that's the reason why this model has been proposed.
Thank you, Nick. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, this item was moved and seconded. City Clerk, could you please take the roll on R1 20-0-21, amending Title I, Chapter 10 of the Evanston City Code, City of Evanston Code of Ethics and Board of Ethics. This is for introduction.
Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
I'm sorry, am I able to be heard?
We can hear you. Yep, she was in.
Okay, I couldn't hear her then. Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin?
No.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
Aye.
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
All right, R1 passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-1 vote, and that's for introduction. Alderman Sufferton, would you mind moving AP1 and I believe, well, we'll go ahead and move AP1, please.
Item AP1, the mayor recommends city council approval of the following appointments and reappointments: Paul Pollitt, Fire Chief, and Christopher Voss, Assistant Communications Coordinator to the 911 Emergency Telephone System Board; Claire McFarland Barber, Bonnie Lockhart, Robin Ruth Simmons, and Carla Sutton to the Reparations Commission. And I feel bad about this one. And Lisa Dezekian are appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is for
I can.
Okay, Zycan. Lisa Zycan, welcome back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Go ahead.
Thank you, Alderman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. This was pulled off, I believe, because Alderman Ruth Simmons is being, I'm putting her forward for the Reparations Committee, and so she can't vote on that. So I'm just going to ask Alderman Ruth Simmons, would you like us to move all of these just for a vote of the council? That might be the most efficient, presuming they're going to pass, or would you prefer to vote on all of the separate ones except for reparations, and then we'll do a separate vote on reparations?
For efficiency, you can move them all, and I am in support of the other appointments.
All right, so they were moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion or conversation, City Clerk, could you please take the roll on AP1, approval of appointments to the boards and commissions?
Wen?
Aye.
Alderman Wilson?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
I abstain.
Alderman Sufferton?
Aye.
Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Alderman Fleming?
No.
Alderman Fisk?
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, so on a 7-1 vote with Alderman Ruth Simmons abstaining, the appointments to the boards and commissions and committees passes the Evanston City Council on a 7-1 vote. So thank you to everybody for serving again on a committee if you've already been on one, or putting yourself forward to serve on a new committee such as reparations. So thank you for that. That takes care of our agenda for this evening. We've gone through all the items that were pulled off the consent agenda. We're now going to move to call of the wards. We'll start with you.
Mayor?
Sorry?
Mayor, I'm sorry. I want to check to make sure that A27 stayed on consent.
Let's see.
Actually, I pulled it off. Thank you, Alderman Wynn, but we didn't vote on it.
Oh.
If you didn't hear me and it went on consent, it's fine.
No, she did. I heard it.
All right, then I made that. That's on me. So let's go ahead then, and we'll talk about A27. That should have, we're going to do that separately right now. Let's see, Alderman Sufferton, can you move A27?
Yeah, we move item A27, ordinance 27021, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 18, Schedule 18P, residence only parking districts. Staff recommends city council adoption. Ordinance 27021, amending the above caption chapters and titles. The ordinance will amend parking on Sheridan Square to allow for non-permit parking between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. with a 3-hour maximum on the east side of Sheridan Square from the Garden Court to Sheridan Road. Or action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, this is now open for any discussion. Alderwoman Fleming?
Yeah, I just had a question for parking, because I've had several residents who asked about this, and I know several years ago we had kind of a mishap on this block. So do these parking restrictions model what we have elsewhere on the lakefront? Is Mike or someone here?
Yeah, hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mike Rivera, parking manager for City of Evanston. Yes, this would mirror what we have in other recreational parkland areas along the lakefront. Alderman Ravel and Fisk can attest that in their wards we have restrictive parking districts already established on blocks in proximity to the lakefront areas.
Okay, and then I think at our last meeting, Alderman Sufferton asked about maybe free parking. Was that a referral that you made? I can't remember. Free parking if you have a city sticker. Still with the time limitations, but.
Yeah, we had talked to Mike. This is an idea of yours, actually. I want you to get the credit for it. Similar to what we do with Northwestern football parking, where there would be a fee to park for non-Evanston sticker holders, and parking near the lakefront would be free. And that was something that we were going to work on in the 81st City Council.
Sure, Alderman Sutton, sure. That's something you brought up in the last Administration and Public Works meeting, and my staff and I are currently working on a proposal to present to senior management, and then hopefully on to Administration and Public Works in the near future. And that was to model a parking program for paid parking along some portions of the lakefront that would exempt residents with paid wheel tax to park, and anybody else visiting the city would then have to pay for parking via mobile parking app and or parking pay stations installed along those areas identified.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your anticipated work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so that clarifies the questions that I had. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, City Clerk, you please take the roll on 827, ordinance 27-0-21.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Clerk. A27, ordinance 27-0-21, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 18, Schedule 18P, residents-only parking district, passes the Evanston City Council on a 9-0 vote, and that was for action. Now we're going to go ahead and turn to call of the ward. So Alderman Nguyen, we'll start with you tonight. But I should say, as Nick Cummings was good to do, council member Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank all of the residents of the Third Ward who came to last Thursday's Third Ward Town Hall meeting. We had an excellent discussion about a lot of good issues, and I look forward to our next meeting, which will be in July, for the next Town Hall Third Ward meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council member Wilson.
Thank you. And I also want to just specifically thank our engineering staff, Laura Biggs, Stephanie Levine, and also City Manager Storley, and everybody involved. It was a cast of many to get this Robert Crown project completed. And I think it was very exciting to see that this recognition is being given for that project. It truly is a remarkable community achievement, and I think we should all be very proud of that. And it's going to be here for generations to come. I would also like to make a reference to whether it's P&D or the council, but I know that P&D had declined to do a 2-year extension of this permitted use on the U2 zoning district, but I'd like to make a reference that we give that a 1-year extension, and hopefully that is more acceptable to the group. I think it's only fair to give an actual fair shake to the program. So I'd like to make a reference that be added at our next meeting.
All right, thank you, Alderman Wilson. Alderwoman Ruth Simmons.
Thank you. Just an invitation to the Fifth Ward and our friends and partners to attend our final ward meeting of the 80th City Council on May 5th. It will be on Zoom at 7 o'clock. So look out for a newsletter with details on the fund that we will have at that meeting on May 5th, 7 o'clock. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Council Member. Council Member Sufford. All right, Council Member Ravel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In recognition of this, we're wrapping up Earth Month, and in recognition of Arbor Day, which you indicate is coming on Friday, I just want to mention the planting of 150 native sapling trees on the Canal Shores property. These were donated by MWRD through the good grace, wonderful help from Commissioner Cam Davis. We had a whole bunch of volunteers out on April 17th to plant these saplings in 2 different nurseries. And so if you're out walking on the canal near the 11th hole or near the 14th hole, you'll see fencing around this little baby nursery where these, the trees saplings are just tiny, but they're going to grow and be just wonderful additions to the Canal Shores, particularly along the bank of the canal where they've been clearing a lot of the buckthorn and other invasive species. So it's a really great opportunity for Canal Shores, and we're really appreciative to MWRD and Cam Davis.
Thank you, Council Member. Council Member Rainey.
Thank you. Well, just want to say that the Howard Street project is underway and is painful, but the part that has been completed is very nice, and there's a lot more to go. However, tonight I got some really good news from Harrington Brown Developers, the Chicago Howard project. They had a closing, and they have new financial partners. They have secured financing, and a groundbreaking is imminent. Hopefully by the end of April, we will see that. So that's the best news I've heard in a long time, and hopefully that will happen within the next few days. So that's all.
That's great. Thank you, Council Member. Council Member Fleming.
Yeah, I have a couple of referrals. One is to the Parks and Rec Board. I would like them to kind of give an update on garden plots and how those are assigned. I know that there's always a wait list. Also to the Rules Committee, I would like to have us talk about having a budget committee of the council. There's several communities that have those, so it'll be a subcommittee of the city council.
We used to have it.
As well as to look at the timeline for swearing in. I know that some of the communities around us have already sworn in our new council members, so just revisiting whatever rules we follow for the swearing in date. That's it.
Thank you. Council Member Fisk.
No report.
Council Member Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, and I don't know if many people will know them, to the family of Thomas Vincent, who just recently passed. Condolences to Mrs. Vincent, Derek, Tina, and Phyllis. Sorry for your loss. And then there was a notice that was sent out to families in close proximity to C.L. Niehoff, and it caused a little bit of confusion in the neighborhood. So for those neighbors that received that notice, you should be receiving a flyer in the next couple of days inviting you to the building. I just want to be clear that there is no plans for the building to increase any of their footprint. The image that was used on that flyer was given by the architect, and it doesn't reflect the project. It's internal. It is on the footprint of the existing property. I'll use the words of Director Neiden that said it's the equivalent of remodeling a bathroom in your home. But there will be a neighborhood meeting for those that are in close proximity that have any questions. You'll have an opportunity to hear directly from the owners of the building. And then lastly, our next second ward meeting will be May 13th, the second Thursday of the month. Please see our city calendar for more details and confirmation for the Zoom link. Thank you.
Thank you. And City Manager Storley, I forgot at the end of public comment, but could you take a minute just to share with the public how they find out about the different meetings, as there's still some concern about people missing meetings, and also if we're ever changing links to meetings and people can't get onto the virtual meetings that we're holding.
Yes, so we do try to keep the city calendar on the website updated to have the latest times that we hold all the meetings. and people are really good about letting us know when those are inaccurate, but for the most part, that is the de facto trusted source for what meeting times are and when they are. I'm not aware of any like changes to meeting links. If that does happen occasionally due to the virtual platform, it's not intentional, it's just us trying to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row as it comes to having the virtual meetings. But I'll certainly look into it and provide any additional feedback, commentary at our next meeting.
Thank you. We do not have.
I'm sorry, can I just give a clarification? Because I had the same thing happen this week. We went from the regular Zoom to the webinar. And I know after my meeting, I had several people who, I think when a newsletter went out, it was with the regular Zoom link. And I don't know that we sent another one out when the webinar format changed. And so that might have been the issue that some people are speaking of. Because I had several people who did not work for. So that might clear up some things for some people.
Yeah, I think you're right, Alderman Fleming. We were testing out that format for the ward meetings. It did not work very well, and we won't be repeating it. Some of this is trial and error, and we appreciate everybody's patience.
Thank you. All right, we do not have executive session this evening. We have one final meeting of the 80th City Council. That will be it will be in 2 weeks from today on Monday, May 10th. That meeting will start a little earlier so that we can give a decent hour of the evening for the 81st City Council and the new mayor to be sworn in, which will happen right after our final meeting. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you all in 2 weeks. Good night.